Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, and today I'm going to be doing a video on the Super Bowl, but I'm going to do it from a Rams perspective. And initially, this video was going to be what the Rams are missing that, was holding them back from a Super Bowl, or how close are they and all that. But after watching this game, can you really sit there and tell me the Rams wouldn't have mollywhopped the Kansas City Chiefs? Because I got news for you. There is no way the Rams would have lost this game. Their pass rush, the Eagles, was getting there without a blitz. They blitzed on 0% of the dropbacks that Patrick Mahomes had. They were winning that four-man front. And guess what? The Rams were doing the same thing. As a matter of fact, the Eagles and Rams finished the postseason tied, just one sack away from the record in a postseason. Now, the Eagles played 4 games. The Rams only played 2, and they had 16 sacks in those 2 games. Mind you, those sacks came against a Vikings offensive line that's not the best, but then they did against the Eagles offensive line, and that was really impressive against Jalen Hurts. So, do you really think they had no chance of beating the Chiefs? So I'm going to say this. Before we dive into it, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Be sure to follow me on all social media at JKBogan, including Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Kick. And just in addition to that, I want to let you guys know that today's sponsor is BetUS. And just because the NFL season is over, although if you're a futures person, you got the futures that are already up on the site. But just because the NFL season's over doesn't mean that other sports aren't being had. You got the NBA, that just got a lot more interesting, the NHL, and the MLB is right around the corner, as well as college hoops, right? You got March Madness coming up. So if you're looking for a sports book to bet, it's BetUS. YouTube 150 is the code. It'll get you 150% bonus match on your first deposit and 125% on your next 2 deposits using the code YouTube 150. So special shout out to BetUS for sponsoring today's video. And now let's get back to it. So yeah, I tried to watch this from the lens of how can the Rams get better? What do they need to improve on? What are they missing that this Super Bowl team has? And to be honest with you, they were just 14 yards away from what I believe running the table. I think we all know, and it's okay. People are going to say that's not how it works, and I get that. I don't think there's a chance in hell that Washington team, after watching them go up against the Eagles and go up against that pass rush, I don't think there's a chance in hell Washington beats the Rams at SoFi in the NFC title game. So because of that, I do think the Rams are 14 yards away from getting the Super Bowl. But then the Chiefs won, okay? And the Chiefs, I don't even think are better than the Bills. They won the game, sure. But the Bills had not lost a game the whole year at home. And they beat the Chiefs earlier in the year, and it really came down to the wire. The Bills blew the game. But I still think the Rams would have won. I think the NFC was just the better conference this year. It might not always be the better conference, but what we learned from this Super Bowl is that while the AFC has your big name quarterbacks like, of course, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, regardless how you feel about certain, quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Tua Tagovailoa, I mean, right, there are plenty of quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, regardless of all those big names, the NFC have better teams, and their quarterbacks aren't bad either. I mean, Matthew Stafford, Jaden Daniels, and Jalen Hurts are probably the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFC. They're not half bad. And that's the thing. I feel like the NFC had better overall teams. Now, the thing that's frustrating is I'm sitting here knowing I do believe the Eagles were the better team than the Rams. But the thing that makes it frustrating and why I think so many Rams fans are so bitter, it's not because they were close and they know that they probably win the Super Bowl. It's that the Rams outplayed Philly, in the rematch, in the freezing cold and snow that they had no experience playing in. Some of these guys playing their first playoff game, second playoff game, and they're just showing out in the snow. Some guys struggling, sure. But that is really the frustrating thing. But you watch this, and I got news for you. You got to feel good. You have to feel good. Because you know the Rams really were there. That Eagles game, whether people want to admit it or not, and to be honest with you, it's not that crazy. Because we all said it, divisional round of the playoffs is the best round of the playoffs. It just is. This is the worst Super Bowl we've seen since the Seattle-Denver Super Bowl. You know that, what was it, 40-something to 8, 43 to 8? It was that bad. The Chiefs, let's just put it this way. The score ends up being 40 to 22. Did it look like 40 to 22? It looked like 63 to 7. It was awful. And Mahomes actually winds up having a 95.4 passer rating, 257 yards passing, and 3 touchdowns. He had 2 interceptions. But, like, it was just not a good Super Bowl. The Chiefs sold out to stop the run. They did a nice job. Saquon Barkley, and to be honest with you, this is what a lot of people don't realize. The Rams did this. They held Saquon Barkley in check, not on the level of the Chiefs, but then Saquon Barkley breaks the big one. He didn't do that in this game, but he also didn't have to. The Chiefs weren't better than the Eagles. Are the Eagles the sexy team? No, for whatever reason, they're not. But the reality is they're well balanced, and that's because of the great general managing of Howie Roseman. They have depth on top of their depth. They have muscle on top of their muscles. Like, oh, you know, one of the wide receivers goes down. It's like, okay, well, we still have Dallas Goedert. Grant Calcaterra can fill in when Goddard's hurt. You still got Kenneth Gainwell. You got Saquon Barkley. Kenny Pickett's your backup quarterback, which I think is pretty damn good. Tyler Steen is a backup guard for you, right? You got guys all over the offensive line. Defense, it's like, oh, Brandon Graham, whether he plays or not, they're still really deep. I mean, think about this. They paid, $20 million to Bryce Huff? He was a healthy scratch for the Super Bowl. He's one of the best pass rushers on the market. Healthy scratch. That's how deep they were. So, give the Eagles a lot of credit and give, of course, Howie Roseman a lot of credit and give Nick Sirianni credit because we can clown on him all we want, but Sirianni won the ring. He did. Now, my takeaway from this game is this. Patrick Mahomes was bad. I don't care what the stats show. I will say this. I don't care how it sounds. This is why the Rams 100% have to bring back Matthew Stafford. Because I thought Jalen Hurts absolutely outplayed Patrick Mahomes in both Super Bowls he's gone up against him in. Patrick Mahomes was horrendous today. The stats don't indicate it. He held on the ball way too long. The offensive line was bad. And I'm watching, go back and watch Stafford. Go back and watch, is he holding on the ball too long? I don't think so. He's got a quick trigger. And I just think Mahomes really hurt his team today. I would put the blame on Mahomes and the offensive line. I just think, there were opportunities. I'm not saying they win this game because the offensive line was dreadful, but Mahomes was dreadful too. Missed throws that he doesn't miss. But at the same time, no one wants to admit that and I don't want to say he himself is declining, but if you look at his statistical output, it's declining, and it has been. And just because they've won 2 straight Super Bowls, it's really covered it up, but he hasn't really been the same since Tyreek Hill was traded. It's okay to say that. It's okay. Those explosive monster stats, yeah, he hasn't had those since Tyreek Hill. So why do I bring this up and why is Stafford involved? Because there are 3 quarterbacks who have a passer rating that are over 106, although I think it might go down for Patrick Mahomes. 106, and that in the playoffs, and that is Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, and Patrick Mahomes that are active. I watched today, and I still felt like if the Chiefs had Matthew Stafford, they might have somehow won this game. I thought at one point Patrick Mahomes needs to be benched. He was that bad. Again, the stats end up being okay, thanks to the 50-yard bomb and Xavier Worthy and, the garbage time touchdown. But look, this was not good. And does this change his legacy? Does it hurt his legacy? No. Patrick Mahomes is a Hall of Famer. Patrick Mahomes is going to be, when it's all said and done, one of the top 5 quarterbacks ever. But you can see, while he gets a lot of credit and he gets a lot of a free pass, however, Matthew Stafford, this is why the Rams need to bring him back and run it back. They are not far. And if they got past the Eagles, man, we are talking a completely different tune right now. I'm probably live streaming and I'm probably celebrating if they get past the Eagles. We knew it. We all knew the Eagles was going to be, that was going to be the big bump in the road. That was going to be the big, because no one here, regardless how you feel, no one here thought if the Rams played the Lions, they were going to lose that game. They almost beat the Lions with a 4th-string left tackle, 4 of the 5 offensive linemen out, Puka Nacua out for, after the first quarter. None of their starting corners playing. Like, I was not worried about the Lions. I was a little worried about the Commanders, and I watched, Jaden Daniels against the Eagles defense, and I'm like, yeah, they would have run into a buzzsaw on the Rams. The Kansas City Chiefs would have had no chance against the Rams pass rush. And that's why you should feel good. Because hopefully Matthew Stafford's back, and it is worth noting the Los Angeles Rams 2 hours after I recorded this. So was it 11:30, I want to say, 11:30 p.m. on the East Coast. 2 hours after recording this, or 2 hours before, Matthew Stafford was in a video that the Rams social media team posted on Instagram and Twitter. It's just him coming out of a tunnel, and it says next season starts now. And you could say what you will. There were a lot of people saying, well, it's just some random Twitter admin. It's like, I don't give a rip. You do not get access to that if there's a trade that's about to go down, right? They would not have authorized that. There's no way they would have allowed that. So I think this is a subtle, maybe not subtle, and it was only Matthew Stafford coming out of the tunnel. And at one point, the camera doesn't zoom in, but you can see this Matthew Stafford thing over the billboard. This is probably, I think Stafford's going to be back. I wavered on it a little bit. I think the trade interest was real. I think any team, especially after watching this Super Bowl, if I'm any team, how, of course, the whole thing going on with Malik Neighbors, how he wants him to be a Giant. If I'm the Giants, I'm calling up the Rams and offering 2 first-round picks right now and being like, can we please just get this done? I want to be on that stage. And that's why the Rams would be stupid to get rid of him. Stupid. So a bunch of takeaways. Obviously scatter shot and everything. But I just felt like tonight, the Eagles were clearly the better team. They dominated the Chiefs. And yet I can't get over the fact that these same people, these same fans that are talking all the crap in the world, and they get to, that's how it works, they were shaking. Matthew Stafford was 14 yards away from stealing their soul. And as a matter of fact, he, really, it was a 3rd and 2 he took a sack on because there was a miscommunication on the offensive line that hadn't happened most of the game, if at all. And why do we say that when there was about 50 seconds left if they score a touchdown? It's very easy. The Eagles were not going down the field and kicking a field goal. Look at the way in that game, the way Jake Elliott kicked. No. He kept him in it by missing that extra point. Not in it, but he kept the game alive for the Rams to go down the field, score a touchdown, kick an extra point, and go up 29-28. Okay? So you would have needed him to attempt a field goal, and the only way that you were moving the ball is with Saquon Barkley. So would you have been able to run the ball with Barkley down 1 with 50 seconds to go and run a 2-minute run offense? No, you wouldn't have. So that's why everyone has said, yeah, it was over. I mean, if we score a touchdown, the game's over. And I didn't see it any other way after Puka Nacua had that catch. But it's hard because initially this intention of the video was to take what I thought was going to be a close 30-27 Eagles win and take some bits and pieces of both sides. But I came away thinking the 15-2 Chiefs weren't as good as the 10-7 Rams. And as crazy as that sounds, I don't think it's that crazy. Because if Puka Nacua starts the 6 games he misses, and Cooper Kupp doesn't get banged up, and the offensive line gets more than 5 games together, then they easily win more than 10 games. And to be honest with you, they really would have won 11 games because they almost beat the Seahawks despite the fact Stafford, Kyron, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Alec Jackson, the whole bunch didn't play. So really they were going to win 11 games just on that. And then you look at that close game they lose to the Packers, the close game they lose to the Bears, they lose to the Lions in overtime with a 4th-string left tackle, no Puka Nacua. Yes, I believe this is a year the Rams could have had 14, 15 wins. I do, and I don't think it's crazy to say that. I had them winning 13, and it sure felt like before the season, it sure felt like after the season, looking back on it, they should have won 13. So, obviously, the big thing next year to get back and compete in Super Bowl 60, which will be at Levi's Stadium. I was going to say this and that, but the Chiefs didn't give me anything to feel like, oh, yeah, this is how it needs to be done. See, every Super Bowl season, it's almost like a showcase of this is what you didn't have and this is why they represented. But the Rams aren't really missing much. The one thing that you can tell me the Rams are missing, I mean, obviously you could say the Xavier Worthy, that deep threat down the field. I mean, they had Tutu Atwell but never used him. You could say that. 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 receptions, albeit one of those was in garbage time. You could say they're missing that. But, like, Barkley didn't go off in this game, so you can't tell me, like, oh, they need a running back because there's no way. No, the starting running back for the Eagles had 25 carries for 57 yards. And the starting running back for the Kansas City Chiefs had 3 carries for 9 yards. So this idea that, like, they need to upgrade running back first and foremost is just not real. Don't forget the Rams won the Super Bowl against the Bengals, and that run game didn't really do much. The key from this Super Bowl that should get you excited is that you need a damn quarterback to get rid of the damn football, and he needs to be accurate, and Jalen Hurts was accurate today. You have to keep him clean, because when Jalen Hurts was pressured, he got into some mistakes. He threw the interception to Cook, so you can't do that, right? So you have those two. But then another thing here, so not only is it you want a quarterback that's going to throw on time, you got to have protection on the offensive line. You got to have a pass rush. And guess what? The Rams happen to have all 3. Was the offensive line perfect this year? No. But by the time they got down the stretch for the end of the year, they were pretty damn good. And they were protecting Stafford for the most part. It wasn't perfect, and Stafford can move around. But in the snow, it made it hard for him to move around. There's no way Stafford takes that sack in the snow. I think he would have been able to roll out. Maybe he still gets sacked, but it wouldn't have gone the way it went. And there's no way that on that 4th down, Stafford misses his target like that and has a guy right in his face. If it's not in the snow, I think it would have been different. But it was. So that leads me to my next thing. What's the checklist? Got to have a quarterback. You got to have you want to have a big play receiver, but look, neither of these teams had a big play receiver. The biggest receiver in this game, the big play receiver in this game, the most stats in this game for a receiver was Xavier Worthy, who was on a team that got obliterated. So what does it come down to? It's the defense. Defense wins championships. This is a game that the Rams should have won, and they didn't get a chance to play in it. So what does that mean for next year? What it means for next year is this. Take care of business. Do what you have to do to bring back Stafford. If you take a bath, you take a bath. He already had a pretty high cap hit. You were already going to pay. Just don't screw him. For the love of God, I beg you, don't screw him. This guy came from Detroit, immediately won a Super Bowl. Sean McVay does not have a Super Bowl without Stafford. Can you imagine that? If we were sitting here and Sean McVay was Kyle Shanahan and just didn't win any of the Super Bowls he was in, that'd be wild. Stafford is the reason the Rams won the Super Bowl against the Bengals. Jared Goff would have folded. Jimmy Garoppolo would not have won that Super Bowl, right? So just figure it out with Stafford. And it sounds good based on their post, but I could be reading too much into it, although I don't think I am. So it looks good based on their post. Stafford back, good. Kyron Williams looking at extension, cool. Get a explosive back that can kind of be a change of pace in the draft or cheap in free agency, whatever. Get a big play receiver. I know I said that it didn't show up as like totally a need in this game, but if it was a close game, those big play receivers would have had to really step up. The Eagles were dominating the whole game. The A.J. Brown didn't have to go off for 11 catches for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. But do you think he was ready for that? Yes. He caught the touchdown, and so did Devontae Smith, who, by the way, took the top off the defense on the touchdown. So there is that. The big play did matter. Tight ends. I understand looking at this, Dallas Goedert had 2 catches for 27 yards, and Travis Kelce had 4 catches for 39. I just think the thing that Sean McVay is missing in his offense is a tight end that's just a game breaker. You know, Tyler Higbee looks really good, and I'm excited for him to be back. But if they could get another tight end next to Tyler Higbee, that maybe like a Kyle Pitts type, that is just, you know, a pass catcher specialist, like what they've been looking at. Dalton Kincaid 2 years ago, and then this past year, Brock Bowers. I think that would really help. The offensive line, I think you're good. No one wants to hear it. People, you know, aren't cool with keeping Jonah Jackson, but I think you got everybody that needs to be on the offensive line starting. Bo Limmer had a good rookie year, but he doesn't need to start this year. He started and stayed in the lineup because they were winning. You're not going to bench him when they're winning. It's the hot hand. So I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to start. I'm just saying I would give Jonah Jackson another opportunity. And if he doesn't work, then I just keep him because you're going to eat a lot of dead money anyway and not free up much. Then you have the defensive line. Bring back Bobby Brown. Make sure that run defense is intact. Bring back Michael Hoyt. And then you got Kobe Turner and Jared Verse and Byron Young on cheap deals. And I feel good about that. And then your linebackers, right? What are you going to do with Roseboom, excuse me? I don't know, but you feel really good about Omar Spates. So figure out linebacker, whether that's via the draft or free agency. Corner, bring back Akello Witherspoon. Figure it out with Darius Williams, whether he wants to stay or not. And, you know, if you can work out something, or maybe, I don't know, you just make it team friendly or whatever, or you move on from him and you give Kobe a shot. You draft somebody. The safeties are good. You have a great special teams unit. There's no reason why the Rams can't be there next year at Levi's Stadium representing. I just don't think there's any reason. As long as Stafford's back and they add on to it, the Cooper Kupp thing is going to take a hit. Like, you are going to feel that in the locker room. You're going to feel that throughout your culture, but you have to find guys to replace that. When Aaron Donald leaves, what do? You go out and you find leaders. You find a Jared Verse. You find a Braden Fisk, right? Those guys don't grow on trees, but you have to do a better job of finding those, and the Rams have. I came across a video not that long ago on my channel, and it was, the thumbnail had John Franklin Myers in the middle. It was the glass shattering, and it was like Cam Akers, Tutu Atwell, all these guys, right? And the purpose of the video, this was back in like 2022, around that when they had the bad year, was basically saying the Rams haven't developed as well as maybe we give them credit for. Right after that, they had a crazy 2023 draft, and then they had a crazy 2024 draft. They have changed their archetype, as I've said many times. Avila wasn't your typical interior offensive lineman they would have selected in the past, but they went and they got him. So they've changed their archetype, they've changed their focus and everything, and I think they've really reaped the rewards from that. So now it's time to put it into action. Stafford only has 1 to 3 years left. Maybe he has more, but like, how long is he going to be around? I don't know. If the Rams bring him back, I hope it's a 2-year deal. I really do. I want to see a 2-year deal I mean, if it's a 3-year deal, I'm not going to complain. I just don't want this year-to-year thing. This takes away from the focus, and I just don't like it. I think he deserves to know that he's taken care of for the next 2 years. That's all I'm saying. And if that's the case, you get Stafford for another 2 years, there's no excuse. You should be going after it. You should. Don't give up your future, but definitely consider going after it. If Garrett Wilson isn't available, but you do want to trade and there's no receiver, and this, I mean, we'll talk about another video, but the stuff about Micah Parsons, the internal discussions and everything Dallas is having, I would definitely entertain that. But yeah, Super Bowl 59 is in the books. It's another Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl that was really not fun. I didn't enjoy it. I barely made it through the game. And I didn't feel like we learned a hell of a whole lot. I think the one thing we learned is that the Rams and maybe other NFC teams were just as deserving of the Super Bowl as the Eagles were this year. And I think anybody in the NFC except for the Packers beats the Chiefs. Anybody in the NFC playoffs except for the Packers, because the Packers were really banged up. It's not that I think Jordan Love couldn't have gotten it done, but I just didn't think he was fully healthy. So, yeah, I'll say that. I think the Lions would have won the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. No matter how I feel about them, I still feel that way. Obviously, the Eagles won. They were the 2 seed. The 3 seed with Tampa. Tampa could have won. Absolutely. The Rams absolutely could have won. The Commanders, right? And then who was the other one? The 6 was the Commanders. 5 was who? So 4, 5. Oh, it was the Vikings. I don't think the Vikings would have won. I don't think the Vikings would have won. I don't think the Packers would have won. But we move on. It's a new year. The new season starts now, right? So hopefully, as painful as this was, and I'll say in a way, this was knowing how close they were, truthfully, knowing that really that Eagles game was it, and we all kind of knew it, that was more painful than the 2018 Super Bowl loss. Because I say this all the time, people don't believe me, and that's fine. But I remember saying it to my family, watching the game when they lost. I said, I'm disappointed, but I'm not really sad. It felt so good to see my team back in that game after years of dread. And I knew the guy that I handpicked in Sean McVay back when Fisher was still there in November. They hadn't fired him yet. I wanted McVay, and I just knew that they were going to win it someday. The next time he got back, they were going to win it. And I just felt like, you know what? To do that in your second season, it's a bummer. They could have won. They didn't make the adjustments. These are things Sean McVay learned from. And had that been his first Super Bowl against the Bengals, I don't think they win. And this is really what it comes down to, is that sometimes it's not all perfect. Sometimes, you don't know better. Patrick Mahomes doesn't know better. He just wins Super Bowls. Well, I feel like these losses help him, right? Just like the loss, McVay had to lose that game to Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl to learn from his mistake, and then he was ready in 2021. Because guess what? Those games don't always go smooth sailing like it did for the Eagles today. They don't always go smooth sailing like it did for the Seahawks. It's not to take anything away from them. They're obviously making the plays. But you just don't know how games are going to go. It's a snowball effect. It's the biggest stage. And so you do get blowouts in the Super Bowl. Even though it's really a bummer, you'd like to see close games. Like the 49ers-Chiefs game was incredible. The Rams-Bengals game was incredible. You don't always get that. So I think that's a big thing here, is that when you have a game like what we saw Rams-Bengals, you have to really coach in that game. You really have to step up. And McVay has done that. He had to do that. He had to make adjustments. And you know what? The Rams did that. And they came away, even though they were down 10, and he had the gutsy play call to go for it on 4th down. If Cooper Kupp twists the wrong way or slips, the game's over. It's pretty crazy to think about how everything that went into that drive, and how it just all could have blown up in our faces. It easily could have gone south. There's no reason why it couldn't have. So just something to think about. But yeah, I guess this was like just a rant after the Super Bowl, but like about a bunch of things. My takeaways. I didn't really have too many takeaways. I feel like the Rams are right there. I feel like you should feel really good about this team. The issue is you get to this point, Stafford only missed one game, and that was because they sat him out. He didn't miss a game due to injury. Although the last 3 games of the year before he sat out, he was definitely banged up. I just think he doesn't look close to done. I think the young pass rush is only getting better. The secondary's good. They have pieces all over. It's a really good Rams team that has drafted better than any team in the league the last 2 years. Not going to have as many draft picks this year, so it might be a little difficult, but if they keep doing their thing, they get another good draft. Doesn't even have to be the best draft, but they get another solid to good draft, and they do their thing in free agency. Watch out, because I'm telling you, Sean McVay, like, he's going to get back. I mean, I don't know if 100% if it'll be Super Bowl 60. If it's 61, it'll be at SoFi. I also wouldn't rule out if it's both. If you get the defense playing like this and the offense scores at least 25, who's beating the Rams? That's how I felt. At the end of the year, the way the defense was playing, all things considered, they weren't scoring enough points. But if they go back to where they were Stafford's first year and they start putting up points again, who's beating this team? And that's what you got to ask yourself. So a lot of stuff ahead. You're going to have plenty of content on the channel. Don't you worry. Going to get in the draft, of course, free agency, offseason, all that stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I do a lot of different things during the offseason. Of course, I cover the Yankees and, I'm doing my, show, the lounge. But I wouldn't mind this to hurry up because I'm already really, really looking forward to that kind of revenge tour next year. And to be honest with you, I think the Rams are going to be playing the Eagles week 1. I think that's how the NFL is going to set it up. I think the Rams will play the Eagles week 1. And they'll kick off the season. Last time they did that, everything went to hell in a handbasket. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but we'll see. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Very interesting to make because I didn't have any notes of any sort. This was really me just going kind of off the cuff, how I felt after the Super Bowl. Just the prevailing theory for me is that the Rams are 100% good enough to win a Super Bowl, and it all comes down to what I've been saying. If they add some more pieces, it makes the margin for error a little bit wider. I think it was very slim. I just slammed my mic. I think it was very slim like this without the offense. So if Sean McVay can get that offense moving again, scoring again, all of that, you have the defense going the way it is, they are going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. But again, that all starts with getting number 9 signed. Make it happen. Hopefully we're talking about it sooner than later. Hopefully this deal gets done very soon and we could just move on with our lives. But in the event it doesn't, I'll also be covering some other aspects and what ifs if this thing doesn't get done. Either way, you'll see me soon. I'll see you guys soon, and you guys take care. Later, folks. All right, guys. So once again, just want to let you guys know that you can check out my new side project, The Lounge. I interview athletes, musicians, actors, actresses, all the 9. So definitely check it out over on the Lounge with Jake ELLENBOGEN channel. Be sure to subscribe and enjoy. In case you guys haven't noticed, I do have a Discord channel for my community on this channel. And if you want to be a part of it, it is free. The link is in the description below. You can sign up. This is basically a 24/7 Rams channel, and we are almost at 1,100 members. So if you want to be a part of it, just hit the link in the description below.